Mr. Moore, would you like to come on up? I am honored today to present a proclamation to Gregory Moore, who has served for 14 years as the commissioner of the SIAC, sports league, and a number of HBCUs, including Clark Atlanta and Morehouse. But when I was a kid, I was introduced to SIAC basketball and football first at the John Lewis Gymnasium at Morris Brown College, where as a 10-year-old, I don't think I'd ever seen so much fan fury and energy, and it has stuck with me to this day. Morris Brown no longer a member of the SIAC, but we were talking earlier, and hopefully they can come back. But Commissioner Moore has served a really distinguished tenure at the SIAC, has made it into a sustainable and successful sports conference with a number of institutions across the Southeast, including a handful in Georgia. His office is in my district, which is why I'm presenting this to him, but if you'll indulge me, I'd like to read this proclamation on your behalf. In recognition of SIAC Commissioner Gregory Moore, whereas the Atlanta City Council is pleased to recognize and honor Commissioner Gregory Moore. In 2009, Commissioner Moore was named the 4th full-time commissioner of the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference and served as the longest tenured full-time commissioner in the league's history. And whereas Commissioner Moore became responsible for the SIAC's day-to-day operations when the league was grappling with unprecedented fiscal challenges. During his 14 years at the conference, he confronted those challenges and increased the league's revenue while improving and negotiating multi-year partnerships. And whereas Commissioner Moore led the conference's efforts in fostering relationships and corporate sponsorship with the Coca-Cola Company, Nike, the Home Depot, Geico, Cricket Wireless, UBS, TIAA, Academy Sports, the Google Foundation, Georgia Power, and Toyota. And whereas during his tenure, the SIAC increased its top-line league revenue, raised its annual distribution to member schools, and added 5 new member institutions. It cultivated the largest reserve fund in league history and established the SIAC's first securities brokerage account. Commissioner Moore expanded the league's banking relationships to include 3 of the largest African-American community banks within the conference's footprint, establishing accounts with Tri-State Bank of Memphis, First Liberty Bank of Tuskegee, and Citizens Trust Bank of Atlanta. And whereas Commissioner Moore guided the conference into digital marketing and social media content era, he increased its media and television visibility by negotiating a multi-year media rights agreement with ESPN and a league-wide website contract with Sidearm Sports. And finally, whereas under Commissioner Moore, the conference fostered relationships with the NBA and NFL to cultivate and enlarge recruiting pipelines and professional development forums for student athletes. It also garnered national attention for several historic feats in college sports. It became the first conference in NCAA history to initiate an all-women college football officiating crew and the first HBCU athletic conference to sponsor men's volleyball. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the Atlanta City Council, on behalf of the citizens of Atlanta, do hereby commend Commissioner Gregory Moore for his contributions to HBCU and college athletics, his commitment to the SIAC, and for serving as a trusted steward to its leaders, student athletes, and alumni of its member institutions. Mr. Moore.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I want to thank Councilman Faroki for those remarks. I want to thank the Councilman and the entire City Council for this recognition. You know, when I heard those accomplishments being ticked off, I can only think that my father would have loved to hear that, and my mother would have believed it. But I will say very briefly that this is, you know, I was a lawyer before I came here. I had a previous life in politics as well, in terms of working for elected officials and public servants. But this job has really been a labor of love. We were in tough shape 14 years ago. We have expanded our league by 30%. We have 5 other schools that want to join our league. And we've quietly been in downtown Atlanta for, you know, approaching 109 years, founded in the AU Center. So there's a rich history here. I like to think that I left the league in better shape than I found it. I think the future is much brighter for this league. And I will say that there are some headwinds, you know, facing the entire HBCU sector. There's a Supreme Court case that's going to be heard in October. Most legal observers, like myself, think that it's going to lead to the striking down of affirmative action. And when folks ask me what that looks like, I say, well, look no further than California in Texas, where the state minority enrollment population at flagship universities like UCLA went from 14% to 1%, and UT Austin went from 13-14% after they outlawed it to 1.6%. So I think when that case comes down as expected, these schools are going to be even more important, because many of these young people who are displaced by these kind of decisions will not be able to attend the schools they can afford, which is state universities, and will not be able to afford the private schools that are out of reach. So there is a tidal wave that's coming, which means that these schools, 100 that are left in this country, all of us have a stake in making sure that we protect them and nurture them and invest in them to keep these doors of opportunity with regard to education available to them. But with that, I say thank you, and I appreciate the recognition.
Let's step forward and take a photo together. Is this your phone? I don't.